friends. Welcome to At the Table with Tableland Services, podcasts that focus on helping people and changing lives right here in your community. Each episode is dedicated to our vision of a community that is educated, where everyone has a voice and achieves their potential. So, grab your cup of coffee, invite some friends, and have a seat with us at the table. Welcome back, everyone. This is Lisa, your host, and today we're at the table talking about stress, anxiety, and fear. More importantly, how to overcome these things. Let's face it, these are very challenging times, and today we are several weeks into quarantine and social distancing amidst a pandemic that seems to have literally rocked our world. To say that each of us has been grappling with some stress, anxiety, or fear is, I'm quite sure, an understatement. I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to sit down today and talk with one of our longstanding partners, Beal Counseling Consulting. This team of social workers is led by owner and licensed social worker, Justin Beal. Today, one of his team members, Sara Hoover, a certified recovery specialist, sits down and talks with me at the table about how we can overcome these challenging times. And she provides some really practical strategies for living one day at a time. I know that today's episode is going to be so important to your well-being. Every opportunity that I have had to check in with experts in the field of mental or emotional wellness like Beal Counseling and Consulting, I walk away with a feeling of freedom, comfort, and peace. So I hope that you too will find this conversation helpful. And I'm super excited to tell you that this episode is actually part of a series of At the Table Talks with Justin and his team. We're going to be releasing additional podcasts that I believe will help you navigate these really difficult times. Together, friends, we are stronger emotionally, educated, and we can achieve wellness. So let's listen in to Overcoming Stress, Anxiety, and Fear with Sara Hoover. Hi, Sara. Welcome to At the Table. I am so glad to be here with you this morning.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm so happy to be a part of this.
I imagine that you and your fellow team members have been very busy these past few weeks helping people and changing lives.
Yes, Lisa, it has definitely been a very trying and stressful time. Fortunately, though, we've been able to transfer our services over to a teleservice model and still remain in contact with our clients during this change in our world. Although there is no universally acceptable definition of stress, I think we can all agree that our current COVID-19 pandemic has created quite a bit of stress for all of us.
Yeah, Sara, you mentioned change, and change is certainly one of those factors in our lives that is not always something that we embrace easily and can be very stressful. And when change occurs in the manner in which it did just a mere month or so ago, not just here in our community, but across the entire globe, well, that's the kind of catalyst for increased stress, anxiety, and fear. Can you share with our listeners today some information about how crisis like this actually affects us on the inside? Like when we're experiencing something traumatic or a crisis, so to speak, we are so reactionary that we really aren't thinking about what is happening. We're just responding and we're just trying to survive the stress. And I think you have such a great way of talking about what's actually going on inside our body and how the brain can actually handle stress like we've been experiencing.
Sure. And let's just start by saying, stress isn't always harmful since increased stress results in increased productivity. A definition of stress should also embrace this type of healthy stress, which is usually ignored when you ask someone about their definition of stress. Today, we are focusing on COVID-19 and stress it has caused. At first, it was acute stress. Now that we've been dealing with it for a while, it is becoming more chronic. So here is how this breaks down. Acute stress. Fight or flight. This is when the body prepares to defend itself, and it takes about 90 minutes for the metabolism to return to normal when the response is over. Chronic stress. This is the cost of daily living, like bills, kids, jobs. This is a stress we tend to ignore or push down. Left uncontrolled, this stress affects your health, your body, and your immune system. So now, with well over a month into isolation and social distancing, stress has been wearing on us, and you can feel the toll it is taking on you. You can probably see signs of stress in others as well.
Yeah, me. I feel like I want to raise my hand here. It is difficult to make such a huge transition. My work, for me personally, was moved to remote work. I have a family, of course, so my kids are now home full time with me. The homeschooling thing, well, let's just say that even a college educated person like myself struggles to get the kids motivated to want to do their work. And then you couple that with job loss, which many of our listeners may be experiencing, and concerns about finances, their bills. Yes, I think we can probably all honestly admit that we are experiencing and seeing stress in our families, even in our kiddos.
Absolutely. I know I'm personally trying to be more mindful of how this current situation is affecting more than just me. It's affecting my family members, including my 10-year-old daughter. Our kids, although I'm sure are happy to be out of school right now, they're experiencing just as much change in stressful situations as we as adults are. It's
Mm.
important for us to recognize stress in our children, just as it's important that we understand how it affects us. If we took a look at how our body responds to stress, we can better understand the natural reactions that occur. Take, for example, fight or flight responses. One of the primary purposes of your brain is to keep you alive. The fight
Mm.
or flight response help us to achieve this. It is like our alarm system to alert us to danger. If we heard a loud noise right now, we would look in the direction it came from and tense up, bracing for impact. This is to keep us safe and away from danger. The fight or flight response can happen in the face of an imminent physical danger, such as encountering a growling dog during your morning jog, or as a result of a more psychological threat, such as, say, preparing to give a big presentation at school or at work.
I do remember learning about the fight or flight response back in my intro to psychology class in college. So, and thank goodness too that we have all these internal mechanisms to help us in the face of stress. What are some of the physical reactions that we might experience?
Sure, some of the physical signs that may indicate that the fight or flight response has kicked in are rapid heartbeat and breathing. This is when the body increases heartbeat and respiration rate in order to provide the energy and oxygen to the body that will be needed to fuel a rapid response to the danger. Pale or
Mm.
flushed skin is another one. As the stress response starts to take hold, blood flow to the surface areas of the body is reduced and flow to the muscles, brain, legs, and arms are increased. You might become pale as a result, or your face may alternate between pale and flushed. Dilated pupils. Another common symptom of the fight or flight response is the dilation of the pupils, which allows more light into the eyes and results in better vision of the surroundings. And trembling. In the face of stress or danger, your muscles become tense and prime for action. This tension can result in trembling or shaking.
I really can relate to the shaking or the trembling response. That is usually the first one I notice when I feel stress. And I love the way that you explain that. And I know that it really helps me to reflect on why I responded to things throughout my life. And I guess in a way, it helps me to better understand how to work toward coping skills for managing stress and anxiety in my own life.
Yes, and while the fight or flight response happens automatically, that does not mean that it is always accurate. Sometimes we respond in this way even when there is no real threat.
Mm.
Phobias are a good example of how the fight or flight response might be triggered in the face of a perceived threat. A person who is terrified of heights might begin to experience the acute stress response when he has to go to the top floor of a skyscraper to attend a meeting. His body might go on high alert as his heartbeat and respiration rate increase. When this response becomes severe, it may even lead to a panic attack. Understanding the body's natural fight or flight response is one way to help cope with such situations. When you notice that you are becoming tense, you can start looking for ways to calm down and relax your body.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so it sounds like we're making our way now from the physical response of the introduction of stress to how we manage it. So this is a good segue, I think, into how we handle the stress that we've been given, so to speak. Sara, could you maybe provide some tips or strategies for our listeners that can help in doing just that, handling stress?
Yes, I sure can. But real quick, let me just mention there's a chemical involved in the stress response, which is called cortisol. Think of
Mm-hmm.
cortisol as nature's built in alarm system. It's your body's main stress hormone. It works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, motivation, and fear. But what if you're under constant stress and the alarm button stays on?
The alarm starts sounding, right? And,
Hmm.
and and that means you really need to address it, or we could be in for a complete breakdown. At least that is how I have found myself at times responding.
Yes, Lisa. And so focusing on managing stress is very important. There are several relatively simple things we can do to help manage stress. First, focus on what you can control. It might be helpful to use a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. In one column, list things I cannot control, and in the other column, things I can control. For example, you might list in the first column, I cannot control how the virus spreads around me. And in the second column, I can control how often I wash my hands, how often and where I venture out, etc. This can provide concrete and productive activities into which you can focus your time and energy. Also, it's important to learn facts about COVID 19 from reliable sources only, using subject matter experts and the Center for Disease Control website as your primary sources for information. That being said, however, try to limit exposure to social media and news sources. Constant reading, watching, listening about COVID 19 related stories can exacerbate anxiety and stress.
Mm. We tend to oversaturate ourselves with news, regardless of whether it is on television or our news feed and our social media. And it's easy to do. But I recall after 9/11 and the monstrosity that catastrophe was, there were actual studies done that indicated that we were essentially re-traumatizing ourselves and our children by constantly focusing on the news that is really only intended for us to see once, not over and over again.
Mhm.
So, okay, so what else is on the list, Sara?
Sure, exercise.
Mhm.
Exercising regularly can help to reduce stress and enhance your physical health and conditioning. Since fitness centers are currently shut down, exercising outdoors is a
Mhm.
great idea. Also, looking at resources online. There's plans for exercise regimens that can be done from home. Running and walking are also excellent ways to help reduce stress and get in better shape while also avoiding risk of exposure.
Walking has certainly become my favorite. I just love it. I read something about a year ago that stated that walking for 10 minutes can literally walk you right out of a bad mood. And so I tried it, and sure enough, it really does work. And right now, it has become really important when you're in quarantine and social distancing because it gets us moving our bodies. The fresh air is great. It's an opportunity to clear our heads. It's just such a healing process. And you don't have to be a fast walker. You can just go at your own pace and enjoy the outdoors. So
Hmm.
that's my favorite. Okay, so what's next, Sara?
Sure. Take care of business you've been putting off. If you haven't already, file your taxes, update your home budget, finish that homework assignment, organize important paperwork, update your resume is a good one. This is a great time to address things you've been procrastinating or just too busy to do.
Yeah, and this might be something that many people aren't even really thinking about right now. It's great advice. We operate a diverse array of programs at Tableland. And so, as I'm listening to you, Sara, talk about some of these things that people could be getting completed, if a resume is one of those items that you need to update, We just released a podcast last week that outlines the CareerLink services and how they're operating a CareerLink in your kitchen model to help you to take care of that business while you're in quarantine right now. Also, for listeners, who haven't filed their taxes, the deadline has been extended, and you can snag more information about tax filing by calling our main line at Tableland. So great advice, Sarah. And so now is really a good time to focus on getting things like that done. That's a great idea. Okay, so what do you have next?
Distraction. If you're finding that it's hard to reduce or shake off anxiety about COVID-19, engage in activities that can distract your mind for extended periods of time. Clean your home, start a woodworking project, play a board game with your kids, watch a movie or TV show. It's a perfect opportunity to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of everyday life and connect with family and friends.
I love this idea. Such a good idea. Healthy distraction is a real boost and can give you a sense of accomplishment too. The kids and I have put together some puzzles, which I haven't done in a really long time, I must admit. And the feeling of putting those final few pieces in was meaningful, as silly as it might sound to some of our listeners, but it was a good distraction, and the impact of feeling like we had accomplished something was well worth it.
Lisa, that is a good lead into my next one on my list, which is focusing on caring for others.
Mm-hmm.
Nurture the relationships in your home by spending time as a family. Call friends and family members, write an email, send a text message, or write handwritten letters to people. Caring for the well-being of others helps to take the focus away from our own preoccupations and anxieties. It nurtures social connection, enhances our mental health. Focusproject.org has some great family activities to consider. Next one I have is relax. Take a hot bath or shower. Download and use smartphone apps that can guide you through relaxation techniques. For instance, you can learn to do yoga online at doyogawithme.com or Yoga with Adriene on YouTube. A few other tips include read or listen to books or podcasts. If you don't want to pay for Audible subscription, Libby and Overdrive are free apps that allow you to borrow ebooks and digital audiobooks from your public library. Journal. Research has demonstrated journaling our thoughts and feelings, especially about things that trouble us, can help to reduce our stress and anxiety, along with helping us work through problems and increase self-awareness. Using pen and paper, as opposed to typing, has been shown to achieve better results.
I am really glad that you point out journaling. I have found that even amongst my own family and friends, we talk about writing things down and why that putting the pen and paper is shown to really achieve better results. I encourage folks all the time to practice gratitude exercises, which really help to create positive focus, but people just don't always realize the benefit of writing it down. They tell me, well, I read it or I'm thinking about it. But when you actually put the pen or pencil to paper, it is again a sense of accomplishing something because there's an action that is tangible. So if you listeners struggle with journaling, please do not be discouraged. Try again. Start small. Write down 5 things you are grateful for in the morning. And keep in mind, they say it takes 21 days to form a habit. So give yourself some time, but I promise that you will feel the difference. Journaling is such a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then my last tip is take online classes. I didn't know this, but you can actually take classes online right now for free. There are 450 Ivy League courses available at freecodecamp.org.
Wow, that's an amazing opportunity. I mean, how cool is that?
Mm-hmm.
Friends, if you've been thinking about trying a college class, it sounds like here's your chance. Check out the links in the podcast or let us know if you need more information on how to access these free Ivy League courses. But what a great opportunity. And it's so wonderful to see how something as devastating and as stressful as a pandemic can also at the same time pull us together. So many great resources are available to our communities all over the world right now as we reach out to one another to not only stay connected, but to help one another too. So lots of great information today, Sara. I am so grateful we had time to sit down and talk about overcoming stress and anxiety and attending to fear. So if any of our listeners need to talk to somebody about stress that they're dealing with in their lives, is there a place to reach out for help?
Yes, absolutely. Both Cambria and Somerset County have a crisis line. Cambria County's phone number is 814-535-8531. Somerset County's phone number is 814-443-4891. And for non-emergency situations, my information will be available in the podcast description.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that information. As always, as Sara mentioned, we will make these numbers and links available to our listeners in the channel so that you can access services for help. Well, thank you so much, Sara, for sitting down at the table with us today. We welcome you and the team from Beal Counseling and Consulting anytime. This is very helpful information for our listeners.
I appreciate it, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, friends, that is a wrap for today. I hope that you found this discussion helpful. Together, we will get through these difficult times. So until next time, please stay well.
Catch more episodes of At the Table at soundcloud.com/Tableland Services. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page, tableland.capfsc, or our YouTube channel, Tableland Services Incorporated.